Hello everybody and Happy New Year. Sorry that I missed an upload last week, but I was really busy with real life. I didn't have any time to work on a video. And I also won't be continuing with my Japan series yet. I will leave that until next week. So this week I'll do a different video, so I won't have to edit that much. It will be all about how to travel Japan if you are visiting Japan for the first time. It will be mostly based on my experiences and what I know, what I've done, so it will mainly be some tips and ideas what you should do and what you should consider when going to Japan. The reason I'm doing this video is because I've talked to some friends who watch my vlogs and they said that they would really like to go to Japan at some point, but they are kind of scared because they don't speak the language and they cannot read the signs, and so they don't think that they will ever go there, at least not until they learn Japanese. But that's weird. I mean, most people who go to any country in the world that is not an English-speaking language, they don't know the language of the country and they still go there without any problem. I mean, even 12 years ago when I went for Japan for the first time, I didn't know any word in Japanese and I couldn't read it, and I still got along very well. And that was before Japan became a tourist-oriented country. And the Japanese are very helpful anyway, so really don't let the language barrier hold you back. So let's start with, where should you go? Japan has a lot of places to visit, but I can give you two general areas where you should stay the first time you are going there. One of the two areas you should focus on is certainly Tokyo. It isn't only the biggest metropolitan area of the world with a population of 38 million, you also have a lot to see. You have parks, you have nightlife, shopping possibilities. If you are interested in the cultural part, you can go to Asakusa right in the city, or on a one-day trip you can go to Kamakura or Nikko. I'd say don't rush too much. Don't think that you go to Tokyo, stay there for 2 nights and then continue. If you're going to Tokyo, do consider staying there for 1 week. I mean, even in 1 week you won't be seeing all, but at least you get to see the different areas and different places, and you might even get some day trip in there. The other area that you should focus on if it's your first time in Japan is certainly the area in Western Japan around Kyoto. Kyoto is like the cultural and historical center of Japan. Just in Kyoto itself you have many temples that you can visit, like the Kiyomizu-dera up in the hills where you have a nice view of the city, or the Kinkokuchi, the Golden Temple. And also close to Kyoto you have the old capital Nara with the biggest wooden building of the world, and also a lot of deer on the street that you can feed. Although I wouldn't do that because you will be crowded by them. Or Osaka is also in that area, the second largest city of Japan. Or you can even visit Hiroshima or Miyajima in a day trip. Also don't forget the Fushigi Inari Shrine. If you feel like taking a walk up a hill, you can walk like through thousands of little red Shinto torii through nature. Well, it's very crowded there, but it's still beautiful, especially if it's very hot outside. It's a bit a cool place to spend your time because it's all in a forest. So in summary, I'd say if you're going only 1 week to Japan, stay in the Tokyo area. If you're going 2 weeks, take 1 week in Tokyo and 1 week in Kyoto and its surroundings. And when should you go to Japan? Japan does have 4 very distinct seasons, so I'll tell you which seasons are ideal to visit. At first, let's get the rainy season out of the way. The end of May and beginning of June you usually get about 3 or 4 weeks of rainy season where it usually rains a lot in Japan. So I'd avoid the whole month of June just to be sure. And also if you are going to the Tokyo and Kyoto areas or anything else that is in the southwest, I'd avoid July and August. I mean, the first time I went to Japan it was the end of July and the beginning of August, and it was really hot. I mean, like Bangkok kind of hot. Especially in Kyoto we had like 35 degrees the whole time with a humidity of above 90%. I mean, at some points I didn't even want to go out of the places that had air conditioning. So if you have any choice, don't go in summer, except if you are going to the mountains or to Hokkaido. Then of course summer would be a very good season to visit. Winter is also not ideal, because Tokyo, Kyoto aren't very cold. You rarely get below 0 degrees and you only get a few days of snow each year. So if you are okay with temperature of around 0 to 5 degrees, maybe even 10 degrees, I guess it's fine. Or in Sapporo, although it's very cold, you have very beautiful ice sculptures and snow sculptures that you can see. So that would be a good thing to see in winter. But if you have the choice, I'd either go in spring or autumn. In spring you have the best temperatures, I'd say. Generally the temperatures are very mild. And of course the famous cherry blossoms are a good thing to see in spring. But you have to remember that cherry only blossom for about 2 weeks in each area, and it depends on where you are. For example, in the southwestern part it already starts in mid-March, while if you are up in the north in Hokkaido you have to wait until the beginning of May to see the cherry blossoms. So if you want to see the cherry blossoms, be sure to be there, the right place at the right time. And of course in autumn you have the very beautiful autumn colors. The so-called momiji, the Japanese maple tree, turns its leaves to red, and it's a very beautiful time for landscapes in Japan. It's also very important to consider you have to be at the right place at the right time. In Hokkaido you already get the autumn colors in October, while in the southwest in Kyushu you have to wait until mid-December to see the trees turn red. The next thing I want to talk about is how to travel Japan. Japan is a very good and very reliable public transportation system, but it's also quite expensive. But it's still cheaper than here in Switzerland, but I think for many people it's way more expensive than what they are used to. So if you are non-Japanese, if you don't live in Japan, the best thing you can do if you want to travel to different destinations is get the so-called Japan Rail Pass. You can get that for limited times of 7 days, 14 days or 21 days. You can choose that. You have to buy that in advance before you go to Japan. And with that you have almost unlimited access to trains and even buses in Japan. But you have to be mindful that not everything is covered by the JR Pass. For example, the Tokyo Metro and I think even the local buses in Kyoto are not covered by the Japan Rail Pass, and also many of the transports in the Japanese Alps that I visited aren't covered by that ticket. But usually if you want to go, for example, from Tokyo to Nikko or to Kamakura, or even from Tokyo to Kyoto, which usually would cost you about $200, that's all included in this Japan Rail Pass, or even the transport from the airport to Tokyo. And especially around Kyoto you can visit almost everything with that pass. If you want to go to Miyajima, to Hiroshima, to Nara, Osaka, you can do it all with the Japan Rail Pass, and you don't have to pay anything else. Be sure to bookmark the page hyperdia.com to your phone, so that whenever you want to plan a day trip or anything, you get the best connections and also its prices to wherever you want to go. You can even set it up so that it only takes into account the transportation that is actually covered by the JR Pass, so you won't be having bad surprises. Where should you stay in Japan? I mean, in Japan you have normal hotels and youth hostels like you have here, so if that's what you're comfortable with, go stay there. The staff speaks perfectly English in those places, and so you won't have any problem at all. But I would recommend to spend at least a few nights in a ryokan. Like that you can experience how it is to sleep on the ground with the futon on tatami. Of course, for the first time I would avoid the expensive real Japanese ryokan, because those are more like a homestay where you get homemade breakfast and dinner, and it helps if you are able to speak Japanese. But you have many tourist-oriented ryokan nowadays. So, for example, the Kimi Ryokan in Ikebukuro, Tokyo, is a place that I can recommend. The staff speaks English, so it's no problem. You have quite a good location, close to the Ikebukuro station, which has metro and JR trains, and you still get the experience of sleeping on the ground with the futon. But outside of that, it's more like a youth hostel. You have a shared kitchen, you don't have any breakfast or dinner included, you have shared bathrooms, and the price is very low for Tokyo level. I think it's one of the cheapest accommodations that you can get in Tokyo. I mean, nowadays with TripAdvisor and all of that, or Booking.com, it will be easy to find an accommodation that fits what you need, thanks to all the review possibility and everything. But I'd say choose something that is close to the public transportation that you need. If you have an active JR pass, choose a place that is close to a JR station. Or if you only need the metro when you are in Tokyo, choose a place that is close to a metro station. Although the metro stations are almost anywhere, so that shouldn't be a problem at all. So now that we have all of that out of the way, let me say that you have it kinda easy nowadays. I mean, back when I traveled Japan the first time, I didn't have any internet with me. Nowadays, be sure to get a portable internet hotspot with you. I recommend the hotspot that you get from japanwireless.com. I use that one. The price is quite acceptable. You have coverage everywhere and you can pick it up at the airport right as you arrive. I remember the first 2 times I went to Japan, I got lost. That wouldn't happen anymore this time around. And you will have your TripAdvisor with you all the time. So when you're hungry and you're someone who is a bit picky when it comes to food, you can open that app and check what you can find close to you. For the last point, I want to give you some tips on things that you should consider when going to Japan, things that aren't very obvious if you have never been to Japan. The first thing is remember to take cash with you. Although you have more and more places where you can pay with credit card in Japan, it's still not accepted everywhere. I mean, in my last visit, I even visited places where you could only pay cash and they didn't have any ATMs in the area. So always have cash with you. ATMs are less of a problem than they were before, but I give you the tip to visit the closest 7-Eleven whenever you need cash. Usually most 7-Elevens do have an ATM inside the store, and that makes things very easy. But if you're going to a remote area, be sure to always have cash with you. Another thing is that the smoking rules are pretty different than they are, well, at least in Europe. Many areas in Tokyo or also in any other cities or towns are non-smoking areas, and you have like designated places where you can smoke. They also have smoking trash bins usually, so you don't litter around. On the other hand, there is no general ban to smoking indoors, so you will find restaurants where people are smoking inside, or bars or pubs, however you want to call them. And also the famous game arcade stores are usually places where people are smoking, especially in the areas where only the adults are allowed to stay. Another special thing in Japan is that trash bins are pretty rare, so be used to carry your trash with you the whole day until you reach your hotel, because usually the only trash bins are either in hotels or in convenience stores. And another thing is that you should keep your voice down, especially in public transportation. You should only talk in whispers and never talk on a phone when you are in the metro or in a train. You will notice that even Japanese people, if they get a call, they usually pick it up just to say, I cannot talk now, or they go out of the train so they can talk on their phones. I think that's all I have to tell for now, at least the things that come to my mind. I hope that I could help you, that you have some ideas about Japan if it's the first time you're going. I will also have some links down in the description and some prices for the different stuff that I mentioned. Don't let the language barrier hold you back. If Japanese culture is something you always wanted to see, just go there. Oh, there's actually something that I almost forgot to mention, it's prices. As I said already, the public transportation is quite expensive in Japan. And yes, of course, if you compare it with other countries in Asia, Japan is an expensive country. But at least compared to European standards, it's not that expensive. You can get food really cheap if you know where to look. For example, you can get food in convenience stores very cheaply, like even hot food like pasta or burgers for $3 or something like that. Or if you go with noodles, it's usually below $10 for a very good meal. But on the other hand, you can also have very expensive food in Japan, like the famous Japanese beef, Wagyu beef. Also, yeah, the public transportation is expensive, as I've said, but still in Tokyo, I think you can get a day metro ticket for less than $10. And accommodations can be, well, it varies a lot actually. I've had accommodations where I spent less than $30 per night, and then I've had accommodations where I spent more than $100 per night. But thanks to TripAdvisor or Booking.com or whatever, you can find accommodations that fit your budget best. So yeah, if you want to go to Japan, just go there, enjoy it. It's I don't know, probably the favorite place I've ever been to. I mean, I visited it already 4 times and I'm planning to go again and again. Although it's like 12 hours from where I live. But there's just something that you have to feel for yourself. I mean, anyone who's been to Japan, they always say they want to go again. Alright, the next part of my Japan vlog series should be released the 9th of January. Until then, I wish you a nice beginning in this new year, and I wish you all the best this year. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next week.